Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our webinar. A couple of requests. Please post your questions in the Q&A only. We will take questions following the prepared slides. A recording of this webinar and slides will be posted shortly on our community site at realtime.inc.com. Later in the day, we will also be emailing a copy to participants. A little bit about myself. I'm the founder and CEO of MultiFunding. I'm an Inc. columnist regularly writing about business lending issues. I have advised prior administrations about the business credit markets. I have a book out called The Growth Dilemma, and I'm a proud EO member for my EO friends out there for EO Philadelphia. But you're not here to learn about me, you're here to learn about the program. Some disclaimers. We are in an unprecedented time in history, and the information available to us is changing rapidly. Please refer to our most current presentation for education. Information we provided as early as yesterday could be outdated. The information provided is based upon our best judgment about what we know at this time and a decade of experience with SBA lending. However, key questions remain about how to implement this program. MultiFunding LLC does not accept any liability as it relates to the timeliness or content of the information we are sharing today or may share in the future. And we are under no legal duty to update any such information or recommendations. We wanted to be clear that while we are happy to provide you with education pertaining to these new government programs, we are not acting as agents, packages, or brokers, and will not be able to help you get a loan placed with a specific lender or prepare or assemble applications or documents for use in applications. We encourage you to check in with your attorneys, CPAs, and financial advisors for additional insights. Now, let's begin. The three critical programs for small businesses and entrepreneurs in the CARES Act. First, where most of the activity is the Paycheck Protection Program. $349 billion was allocated in the original bill, and increased allocations are under negotiation. As of our latest numbers, $151 billion has already been approved to over 587,000 applicants. And be careful, just because it's approved by the SBA does not mean funded. For the EIDL programs, $10 billion was allocated in the bill. By the data we're aware of, 4 million businesses have it approved, already requested $383 billion. And this program has become a stepchild and is in disarray. For the SBA disaster relief, $17 billion is allocated, and we'll be going to each of these programs a little bit through the slideshow. The status of the EIDL loans and grants, we've been getting a lot of questions. Grants are being made for up to $10,000, $1,000 per employee. This is not the $10,000 that was initially suggested. Some applicants who are hearing back are getting offers for a $15,000 working capital loan at 3.75% in addition to their grant. And as of today, we are only aware of one business owner who got the money, who got his $10,000 grant, and he was applicant number 23,999 out of 4 million applicants. And we believe they're working sequentially. The real money and the real action is in the PPP. And this is a gold rush, and gold rushes represent opportunity, chaos, and danger. And I want to discuss all of that with you. Another way to think about getting your PPP money, it's like a maze. It's very complicated, and there could be stops and starts, and it's confusing. Let me try to explain what I mean. Every bank and lender is interpreting vague rules their own way. What one bank tells you or the documents they want or expect could be very different from another bank or lender. The biggest banks are having the hardest time due to the sheer volume of applications they're getting, and it's very difficult to get clear answers. Many sites on the web are quote unquote open for business, taking applications, but don't have a home for these applications yet, causing another area of danger or concern for applicants. You can apply through more than one source, but must be very careful, and you must be very wary of scams. What are the back-end complexities? So once, and if you're lucky to be of about the 500,000 who've gotten approval, Once you're approved by the SBA, your lender has 10 days to get you the money. Banks are struggling with their closing processes, and they're different by bank, and they're struggling to get out the money. We expect that to start flowing better next week, and small community banks are getting out the money the fastest. Keep in mind, banks are taking care of their own customers first, and they should. And applied and funded are two very different things. Just because you've applied doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the money. Many people are asking, my bank is backed up or not participating, what do I do? My first advice is breathe. My second advice is see if there's a community bank in your area who is being successful. They might want your checking account, but that's okay. Third advice is, of all the offers on the internet, the only one we are aware of right now is Fundera, who has sources for these loans. But they have a long line and are encouraging borrowers to consider them as a plan B and look for a local bank first. And be extremely careful of scams. Today, if you are self-employed or 1099, you are supposed to be able to start to put in your applications for PPPs. But we thought that there might be a different application. It appears that 1099s or self-employed will be using the same application as others. Who is eligible to participate in the program? Small businesses with 500 or fewer employees, including nonprofits, veterans organizations, and sole proprietorships and independent contractors are eligible. Household employers are ineligible. What are the attributes of the loan? You can apply for 2.5 times your monthly payroll. The interest rate is 1% fixed. All payments are deferred for 6 months. However, interest will continue to accrue over this period. The loan is due in 2 years. There are no prepayment penalties or fees, and no collateral is required. There's no personal guarantee requirement. However, if the proceeds are used for fraudulent purposes, the government will pursue criminal charges against you. Credit elsewhere is not applicable. All loans will have the same term regardless of lender or borrower, and there are no lender fees, and agents cannot charge fees to borrowers. Different lenders, as we mentioned, have different requirements. However, the application that you submit should be consistent, and the information in the application should be consistent, and a link will be provided there. And in addition to providing the application, you will, by law, be required to show information to prove your payroll request. Payroll costs include salaries, wages, commissions, or tips, capped at $100,000 on an annualized basis for each employee. Benefits including costs for vacation, parental, family, medical, sick leave, health insurance premiums, etc. Retirement benefits can be included. State and local taxes are assessed on compensation. For a sole proprietor or independent contractor, wages, commissions, income, or net earnings from self-employment capped at $100,000 on an annualized basis for each employee. A lot of questions about the $100,000 cap. If you or somebody in your company earns say $300,000, the max you can apply for is $100,000. However, any health benefits, other cash costs the company incurs over and above the $100,000 can be included. How do you determine your average payroll? This is based on your 2019 calendar year. Most applicants, it should be simple. Take all your costs for 2019, exclude the amount of anyone over $100,000, divide it by 12, and multiple by 2.5. There are some exceptions for seasonal businesses, new businesses, and you can look at these to see if they apply to you. How do you determine your number of employees? In most cases, you will use the average employment over the same time period to determine the number of employees for the purpose of meeting this requirement. Are federal taxes eligible? The amount you withhold on behalf of your employee is not eligible, but the amount that the company pays is eligible. Employers cannot include their 1099s or contractors in their calculations. Who are considered owners for these loans? All parties listed below are considered owners of the applicant. For sole proprietorship, the sole proprietor is the owner. For a partnership, all general partners and all limited partners owning 20% or more of the firm are considered owners. For a corporation, all owners of 20% or more are considered owners. For an LLC, all members owning 20% or more of the company are considered owners and or trustees. What will disqualify you if anyone who is defined as an owner is presently suspended, debarred, proposed for debarment, or involved in a bankruptcy, personal or for the business, they are disqualified. If anyone has currently delinquent on a current SBA 7A loan or has defaulted on an obligation to the government with an SBA loan for an SBA loan is disqualified. What you have to include in the application for any owners. You have to determine if the applicant, if anyone has common management with other businesses, you have to include this information. You must advise, although these are not disqualifiers, has the business received an EIDL between January and April 3rd, 2020? That's not going to apply to very many people. If the United States is the principal place of residence for all employees of the applicant, and if the applicant is a franchise that is listed in the SBA's franchise directory. What will disqualify you for any owners of 20% or more? If the applicant or any individual owning 20% or more of the equity of the applicant is currently indicted, on probation or parole, or presently incarcerated, you are ineligible. And within the last 5 years, for any felony, has the applicant or any owner of the applicant been convicted, pleaded guilty, on probation or parole, you will be ineligible. If owners are not U.S. citizens or foreign companies, you are still eligible to participate. It is based on where the employees are, not the employers. You will represent and authorize that all SBA loan proceeds will be used only for the business-related purposes as specified in the loan application. To the extent feasible, you will purchase only American-made equipment and products, and the applicant is not engaged in any activity that is illegal under federal, state, or local law. Anyone owning 20% or more will certify that current economic uncertainty makes the loan necessary for the ongoing operations of the applicant. That the funds will be used to retain workers and maintain payroll or make mortgage payments, lease payments, and utility payments. That you will provide documentation to prove it, and that you understand that loan forgiveness will be provided based on these costs, and that not more than 25% of the forgiven amount may be for non-payroll costs. To reiterate, the allowable use of proceeds are payroll costs, including benefits, interest on your mortgage incurred before February 15th, rent or lease agreements, and utilities. What will be forgiven subject to further guidance? You will owe money when your loan is due if you use the loan amount for anything other than payroll costs, mortgage, interest, rent, and utilities payments over the 8 weeks after getting the loan, and not more than 25% of the amount will be forgiven for non-payroll costs. You will owe money if you do not maintain your staff and payroll. The number of staff will be reduced if you decrease your full-time employee headcount, and the level of payroll will also be reduced if you decrease salaries and wages by more than 25% for any employee that made less than $100,000 annualized in 2019. Let's be clear, the forgiveness laws are not clear, and we await further guidance from the SBA. Expect a lot of the nuances of the forgiveness to become clearer over the next few weeks. You will request forgiveness by submitting your application to the lender. You will include all the documentations of your requested expenses. You will certify that they are accurate, and then the lender will have 60 days to decide on your forgiveness application. There are a number of new affiliate rules. This really pertains if your company has 500 or more employees or is owned by people or businesses that have other businesses that also have up to 500 employees. The clarification on these rules is available in our private education options. or faith-based organizations, you're eligible to receive SBA loans regardless of whether you provide secular social services. Churches, including temples, mosques, synagogues, and other houses of worship, are eligible as long as you have a 501c3 classification, and organizations will not sacrifice their autonomy, First Amendment, or statutory rights. Let's just take a minute to go back and forth on the EIDL grants, loans up to $10,000, which program appears to be in disarray. There's a link where you can apply. There are similar eligibility requirements as PPP. At present, there seem to be some offers for up to $15,000 loans in addition to the grant. You have to not have to be in business for more than 1 year before the disaster. There is no forgiveness, no credit elsewhere requirements, and you have to use the $10,000 grant for similar purposes. In addition to this, the program does have, for anyone who currently has or will get an traditional SBA 7A loan before September 27th, 2020, 6 months of forgiveness of principal and interest. What is happening now? As of 8 p.m. on last night, the SBA had processed 587,000 applications for about $151 billion. The money is slowly starting to flow through to borrowers. Banks and participating lenders are working on their closing processes, and it is a struggle. Currently, the EIDL applications on SBA.gov only take you as far as the $10,000 grant application, and we don't see that changing anytime soon. And we continue to warn people to beware of scams. PPP loans can only be taken by participating authorized banks or credit unions, as of right now. As of right now, if you want to apply for an EIDL, you can only do that at SBA.gov. Debt relief programs for existing 7A borrowers should be automatic. You should check with your existing lender on their status. Forgiveness applications will be made directly with whomever processes your PPP, and agents are forbidden to charge fees to a borrower to help you take applications or find you a lender. Do not pay any fees. Agents can be paid by banks, but we expect this to be uncommon. Our best advice: stay close to your trusted banker. If your bank is not going to participate, look for a community bank or credit union who will likely want your checking account in your neighborhood. And be aware that many states and some local cities are offering their own loan programs to help, and the list of these resources can be found on our community site in collaboration with Inc., and the link will be provided in the presentation. Some follow-up resources available to you. For our online community with Q&A and regular daily updates, please visit realtime.inc.com. For daily webinars with updates, these webinars will continue for the foreseeable future. You can register at webinars.multifunding.com. If you wish to try and apply and get in line for an EIDL, there's the link. And if you want to explore our private education opportunities for one-on-one consultations, there's the link as well. Now the moderator is going to open the floor to take some questions for about 10 minutes.
Ami, this question is around forgivable portion and the 8 weeks, because based on the date you receive your loan, that's when the 8 weeks start, but they're wondering from February 15th to the June 30th window, how can you calculate the 8 weeks being forgiven?
So unfortunately, the forgiveness rules are quite unclear and hard to give definitive guidance on. However, I will reiterate to everybody that the amount eligible for forgiveness will be the expenses that you incur from the 8 weeks from the time you get your money going forward. So you should count on that.
This question's around self-employed monthly payroll. And what document should a sole prop independent contractor employee pull together to apply today?
It's not so clear, but any evidence you can get of how you are taking draws or how you're pulling out money from your sole prop will help. It's less clear, and that I expect will become clearer over the next few days. There's not clear guidance on that yet.
Is there any information about the Main Street lending program recently announced?
Yeah, the Main Street Lending Program is really meant for businesses with more than 500 employees, and that's not the subject of this webinar.
Is it true if you applied for the EIDL last week, you have to reapply with the new application changes?
No one knows. Remember that there are $400 billion of applications in that queue and only $10 billion allocated. So my guess is your guess is as good as mine. Don't count on EIDL money anytime soon.
And can you clarify right now, can you only apply to the advanced EIDL?
Correct. Right now, the EIDL application only takes you as far as the $10,000 advance. Remember, there are 4 million applications in front of you. I don't mean to be negative. Everyone's trying their hardest, but I'm just trying to be pragmatic and help people understand where things exactly are.
Do majority foreign-owned businesses with W-2 employees in the U.S. and paying federal taxes qualify for the PPP?
Please repeat the question.
Do majority-owned businesses with W-2 employees in the U.S., foreign businesses, and W-2 employees in the U.S. paying federal taxes qualify for the PPP?
Yes.
I'm hearing that the 10K grant will be distributed as 1K per employee. Can you clarify?
That is the revised guidance on the program. But again, we think the program's completely out of money.
If my PPP application is in process with my bank, but I have not seen approved email from them, do you have any guidance on the next steps?
Really try to understand where that bank is in their process and how far they are away from getting you an approval. If it seems really slow and you're with a big bank that's really stuck, you might look for a local community bank or credit union that's actually doing these.
If you're approved and funded for the PPP, are you still eligible for the 10K grant by the EIDL?
Yes, if you can get one. But you can't use them for the same proceeds.
If we submitted a PPP loan app and it was approval and waiting for funding on Friday, April 3rd, the following Monday, the 6th, the government changed the payroll cost to include the FICA and Medicare. Is there any knowledge or options to update what we've already applied for?
If your bank has not submitted it for approval yet, there might be some options to go back to your bank and ask them to revise the application. But if you already have an approval number with the SBA, you're out of luck. Just a quick note, I see some people are asking their questions in the chat and raising their hand. That's not going to work, folks. We only have one moderator and she's purely reading off the Q&A, so please be cognizant of that.
Must the bank fund within 10 days after the loan is approved, or can you request a delay before funding to get your employees back in place?
No, the bank must within 10 days. And don't get cute. And people have been asking that because they want to bring their employees back closest to the time that things are being opened, but that's not the intent of the program.
There's a follow-up question with that. So we have been approved for the PPP. Are we required to have all employees rehired off of furlough before the PPP is funded?
You're not required to have them, but the intent of the program is to have them all back in payroll before it is funded. And if you don't do that, there will be clawbacks on your forgiveness.
When the lender is considering the forgiveness amount, will they look at the capped 100K per employee or the full payroll amount?
They'll probably look at both, but again, this is a mess. The forgiveness process is going to be even a bigger mess, and I don't think anyone's really thought about it yet. So there's very little guidance on exactly how it's going to work.
To determine the PPP loan amount, do you still take an average of 2019 monthly payroll times 2.5 or times 2 plus 25%?
2.5.
Employer paid FICA and Medicare is not part of payroll costs in computing average monthly payroll. Can you clarify?
My understanding is that it is, and you should ask your bank for it. If your bank doesn't want to grant it, then you have to discuss that with your bank. But my understanding is that any employer costs are eligible.
Scott is wondering, can people who are part-time employees and 1099 sole proprietors apply for both loans and unemployment?
I don't know the unemployment rules, so I don't feel comfortable to answer that question. I apologize.
Does the money have to be actually paid or accrual acceptable? Thinking of payroll.
I believe it's going to be on cash, not accrual.
What will determine forgiveness if you take the loan as an independent contractor?
It's not clear.
Utilities included cell phone, voice, and data bills. Are those firms regulated by the PUC?
I don't know.
I only have part-time employees. Is this continued to be forgiven?
It's not exactly clear how the difference between full-time and part-time employees will be considered. It is our assumption that it shouldn't matter.
Do we have to fund 401k with PPP money if we aren't sure if we're making 401ks this year?
I'm not sure. I don't think you have to, but I'm not sure. Probably it will ding you if you don't.
Do you think the EIDL will get additional funding since you believe their current limited funding is currently tapped out?
It should, but all focus in Washington right now is on the PPP. No one's even talking about EIDL. So it's like the stepchild right now.
If I'm a new business that started in October 2019, do I still need to calculate my payroll over the 12 months, or how do I calculate over this inception?
You do January and February of 2020 and take the average of that.
I have a real estate business with very little employees, but I plan to include in damages occurred, missed rent. However, I want to include a contract I made in February. Would this expense qualify for a suitable reason for a loan? What program would be the best for real estate investors?
Real estate investors might try to get in line for the EIDL, but for the PPP, none of those factors are considerations. It's purely 2.5 time months of your payroll from last year. Folks, it's 12:30, and unfortunately, due to some additional obligations, we are going to wrap up. Just to remind you that we have an online community where we will shortly be posting these slides and webinar, and additionally sending it to you at realtime.inc.com. These daily webinars and updates will continue next week at noon Eastern Time. We encourage you to sign up. If you want to apply for an EIDL, there's a link. And if you want to try to take advantage of some of our private education opportunities, there's a link also. We wish everyone Godspeed and to enjoy your holiday weekend. And thank you, and sorry that cannot be spend more time with you today. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.